So John, you weren't here. One of the reasons why I picked this was because I'd never seen it.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, John's going to have a good time with this one because I give him shit all the time for things he hasn't seen. But no, I had never actually seen this before. So I was like, let's watch that.
Let's talk about time travel, motherfuckers.
I was also like, I'm not going to pick a 3-hour movie and then make you guys sit through something else that was really long. Like, what would be a short thing that would be good?
No, you took a Johnny 2.0 where he made us watch a long movie and then a short movie.
No, great. It's a good structure for the show. So
no, I lucked upon the version on Criterion with the English subs, and I'm telling you though, you get to watch the screen the entire time, say reading subs up and down. And
so you guys all watched a dubbed version?
Yeah, I watched the dubbed version.
No, I did not.
I watched both French versions.
Okay, I just watched the one in English.
I watched the French version because I was like, on Criterion they do have what Scott's talking about. They have the English version,
right? They have the.
But I was introduced to this film in college with the French, and I was like, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just doing that.
I saw it in the subs in college. I saw it in the theater in French. I wanted to see the English version because I wanted to see what was going on the screen.
Right.
And it was marvelous.
And that's a laudable thing.
It is. It's a marvelous film in terms of the idea about going out with like was it Leica or something like that and just shooting it all.
Right.
It just now,
by the way, Scott, before you get started, Scott, I wanted, while we were on the subject of subtitles, I guess everyone, cinema goers prefer subtibtals when it comes to foreign film.
Cineas prefer subtitles.
Of course, and there's a reason for that because the dub is always garbage for the most part.
Well, I didn't see the dubbed version. I've never seen the dubbed version, so I am also loyal to the subtitled version. But Chris Marker preferred the dubbed.
Yes, he wrote and supervised the English dubbed version of this film.
So it must be a very good version.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Was he an English speaker?
Chris Marker?
Yeah.
I mean, the name, does that kind of tell you anything, Chris?
No,
Marker?
I have no idea.
I don't know anything about it.
I never thought he was French based on that name.
No, he's French. He's French.
That's not his name,
he picked the name after the magic marker felt pen.
No,
I'm not kidding.
No, really?
No,
that's great.
It's true.
That's really. Nothing like
this is why I don't assume things, because
Le film in français by Biff Jones.
Because you make an ass out of you and me. And Marker is a Frenchman who made up a name.
Yeah, there you go.
A really good sci-fi movie.
This is the Chris Marker. It's available in stores now. But so good stuff.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'll never look at 12 Monkeys the same way again.
Goddamn right you won't.
Right?
Okay, first of all, I can't believe you saw 12 Monkeys before you saw this. You fucking.
I've seen 12 Monkeys like 5 times.
Yeah.
And
wow. Great film.
Wow.
12 Monkeys is a good movie.
It is.
They do give him credit, right?
Yeah, they do. They do give him credit.
They do.
Yes.
It's like
Gilliam's not an
aggressively blatant.
But I mean, my God, this movie tells that whole story in 30 minutes.
Yes, it does. Very much.
Which means there might be some padding in the other version.
It does, including the romance and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like what I'll say is that it did a thing first, right? Like up until this point, nobody really told a story like this, correct?
Right.
Well,
they had Fumetti, right?
Not like this. Not like in all stills.
No.
What's Fumetti, Jim?
One exception.
With one little.
So Fumetti are like the you remember National Lampoon?
What Jim's saying? It is like Fumetti.
It is Fumetti. I mean, he admits that. It was like a whole genre in the '60s of doing these stories, the sort of comics that are done with actual pictures.
Right.
But how amazing is it?
It's a motion comic, isn't it?
But how amazing is it in the middle of this picture? She's sleeping. Suddenly, she looks at you.
Oh God, it's the most incredible.
Yeah. It stuck with me since the early '70s.
Same here.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
It's sublime. It's fucking sublime.
The art direction is remarkable. That crazy Meet the Beatles cover with all they got the things on their faces.
Oh yeah, the crystal guys.
A lot of
Although
fun.
you got to admit,
but also, what's great about this is I have the exact camera that I have the Minolta that they shot this on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the stills. I have a Minolta from
The 60s.
well, yes. And what's great about this, and I think John actually handled it, more consciously, was that they don't care if shit's perfect here. He doesn't care at all. He doesn't care if like the fucking shot's in focus necessarily, or if it's got the right, like this is
on the negative.
like a lot. Most of this film is actually worse than amateur photography.
This is one of the most beautiful photographs I've ever seen in my life for the purpose of the film.
The telling a
because
story.
Right.
A
narrative.
He's a skull.
The narrative
He's
raises
literally just a skull in this
It's a
photo.
starving to death guy in the future.
Well, that's one of the people that they experimented on.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't worried about.
And you all
he was worried
caught.
about
I don't know how they.
perfectionism. He's raising all of his shitty photographs because of the narrative.
Right. No, Jim, what was that?
I don't know how they handled it since I didn't see the English version, but in the French version, the scientists are all speaking German.
Yes.
Yes.
In the
Well,
English version,
and multiple of the subjects are also mumbling German.
yeah.
Yeah,
In the
mumbling
English
in
version,
German.
there's background like kind of like diegetic sounds that you can hear German being whispered and talked in the background.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never noticed
No
what
French.
what language the whispering was in. But
Yeah, it was in German. Yeah.
It's mainly they're counting and they say a few things.
Ein, drei, zwei,
You know
drei.
this might be a good time to talk about the sound.
Oh, there it
design
is.
in this movie,
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
the soundtrack is
Cool.
part of the reason that this movie is so incredible is the audio design in it, the
Yes.
soundtrack.
Mhm.
And Jared, that moment that you talked about where he does cut to actual film and the woman opens her eyes, one of the reasons that works so well is that incredible track of bird noises, bird
Yes.
sounds, bird songs
Mhm.
that's just sort of screeching away.
But there's also there's a lot of places in the film where you have these quick montage sequences where you almost have movement.
Well, yeah.
You
well, it's-
sort of have that with the woman leading up
snapshots.
to her opening her eyes.
Yeah.
And it's
I
like,
think one of the
oh my
big-
God, she actually moved.
Right. It was just that effect of cutting to another photo that was probably taken a split second later.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
There's
like
a-
one frame per second.
I saw
Yeah.
this picture. I saw this picture in college because I was taking. Not only was I studying film, but I was taking like a psychology class. And incidentally, they did not show this movie in my film classes. They showed it in my psychology class.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the teacher was a very big, film buff. So, and I remember feeling, watching it again, I loved it. I couldn't love this movie more. But I also, the first time I ever saw it, I actually was scared a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like
The thing
not
on his
not
eyes.
scared, but I
with
felt like it was there was a I wasn't scared like I was, but I felt there was a horror element to the first time I saw this. This time
This is a horror film. This
it
absolutely
it
is a horror film.
science fiction horror.
In fact, it
Yeah.
has an O. Henry ending.
Mhm.
No, that's the
Yeah.
thing. But the thing is, like, okay, this film depicts a post-apocalyptic people dying out because the world's been destroyed. Not
Right.
a lot of films did that and tried to make it look not realistic, but devastating and final and sad. It's like there was like
that's what the gimmick of this is so great, because
Yeah.
when what John glommed onto, you can do that in a finite frame.
and it was very
You can do
effective.
whatever you want.
It's poor
Right.
people living underground and starving and just trying to figure a way out of it by any means possible. It was great stuff.
And it really is a really super efficient way to make a film and tell a story. As
Oh, you
Jared
know that
pointed out.
personally, yes.
I know that personally. I guess we need to acknowledge that.
I will
somewhere.
point
Show.
out that there's two things about this. One is there's a phrase that's been running around my brain for a while recently, which is that post-apocalyptic fiction is people with privilege finding out what underprivileged people are living like all the time.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, dystopian. I think it's
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dystopian.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no,
And
well,
and
not really.
and the other
Okay.
thing, and the
Dystopian.
other thing is
Yes,
there's a French techno DJ who I really like named Dr. Flake, and he has taken some of that like birds chirping as like the back of your head pain or drama or whatever, and used that super effectively in his music. Like the scene where she turns and looks, I think he used the actual sample, the bird sample from that in one of his songs.
So to the point where when you heard it in the film, you're like, I know that sample.
Yep.
That's cool. Wow.
Yeah. It's very much one of those things. And the album is called Frozen Tears too. So, or Sigur France. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, you found this place where this movie made you feel something, and you just picked that out and put it into your music. And like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You guys
Like-
reminded me that I should have brought up the pigeons in the background of that duel scene, because that was also pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
John, I'm not here just to blow smoke up your ass, but I will tell you that now that I have seen this movie,
Yes.
your movie, I think even more highly of it, because what you managed to do was to reference this thing without crossing the line into like parody or like too much. Like you found like your movie is actually more emotionally involving for me
Okay.
on a lot of
Oh,
levels than this
Chris,
thing
Chris,
was.
stop. Are we transitioning at this point?
No, I'm just
No,
gonna
I have a
throw
couple
that
of
out
things
there.
to say.
Okay, take it, Jim.
So there's a silent French movie, science fiction movie from the 20s by what's his name? René Clair,
Oh,
called
yeah.
Paris qui dort, where it's sort of the opposite of this one. It's like an actual movie, but there's a ray that is used by the villains that freezes Paris. And so you have lots of frozen stuff going on.
Oh, fun.
Which are
Hey,
still
Rob Banks.
still photographs then?
Well, basically, or they did it
Freeze-frame.
optically with an
Yeah.
optical printer or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, that's it.
Okay.
Well, it's
Look
like
at this manta ray, motherfuckers.
That scene was
cool too.
that whole sequence was so odd.
So
And
there are
it-
so many of those museums all throughout Europe.
This is
that
like
are
a
these
old
sort of
19th
really old.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Old weird
curiosity.
museums.
yeah.
building on what Chris was saying about Johnny's film, like, are we
Hold on.
transitioning?
Wait a minute.
We
Wait a
only
minute. I get the feeling you guys had a discussion about how you were going to acknowledge the fact that I made
Okay,
a film based
okay.
on this film.
You know
Maybe a little
what?
bit.
You know what? Okay.
Well, how can you not? How can you not?
I'm gonna
So
lead this
tell
right
us,
now.
Chris.
You ripped this off,
No,
motherfucker. How can you not?
I'm gonna lead this right now. All right. Thumbs for this film.
Oh fuck.
All right. All right. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about La Vie d'un Chien.
Yeah, guess what, bitch? We were
Yeah,
reading
we're
your
gonna.
film.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? We chose it since you were absent without.
Yeah,
leave.
exactly. So
Right.
we chose it as our third film this week. So there it is. Let me.
Oh,
change-
did
okay.
everybody just watch it then?
Yeah, I did. I
Yes.
watched
Oh,
them.
No, I didn't watch it. Sorry.
Okay, John, I
I
watched
was
it.
making.
I watched
I was
this.
redoing my bathroom.
You know, the thing is, here's my thing. I watched this.
I am
back-
laughing at Jared and Tad at the same time right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched both these films back to back. I watched
Okay.
the
As did
Jetée.
I.
I
never
watched
did
them
before.
twice
One, then
back to
two.
back.
Right now, here's the thing. Like Chris Marker, it was originally, this is kind of the first time for this kind of method. If you and Chris Marker were in a contest where someone says, take this Minolta and make a science fiction film, and you can do all in stills and have one motion thing, I think you would have won. Because
Well,
you
you
actually
also
have,
had the
no,
internet,
I'm
John.
not blowing smoke. You actually have 4 or 5 or 6 good sci-fi ideas, and you bring in stuff about society. You're bringing
Also,
stuff
everyone likes
about
dogs.
everybody. Yeah, the thing
And
is,
everybody loves
Chris
dogs.
Marker has one idea, basically.
They are better than cats.
They are better than cats. Yeah,
Chris
Yes.
Marker would
Amen.
beg to differ with you, Jim.
I
Fuck-
hung out with the
fuck all
dog
y'all.
today, and it was great.
Now, what did Chris Marker say when he you made this? film?
Okay. So now this is the perfect moment to tell.
First of all, did any of you assholes watch my movie that I posted?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it was great.
Yes.
Come on. Oh
Yes,
my
we
God.
all
Are we
watched it.
going there? Okay. It was wonderful.
We all watched it. No, I said this was the
Fucking-
perfect moment
You fucking Neanderthals.
to tell you.
Thank you.
Chris Marker did not see Levita Shen before he died. However, he was
What?
aware of its existence.
I didn't
He
know he
was?
did see it.
He knew about it. Somebody I talked to, I made a friend in France because of this film. And she talked to him and said, there's this guy in America that made this movie, blah, 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 and told him a little bit about it. And all he said was, when it was told that there was a movie based on La Jetée with all about dogs, he said, I prefer cats.
Oh, what?
So now I know that I hate him.
Chris
Well,
Marker,
it's
Chris
because-
Marker's like spirit animal is the house cat. He's all his films are full of imagery. His
No, there's a
studio
kitty
is
in-
full of cats.
Cats
There's
are
a kid-
basically Frenchmen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's,
right.
there's a kitty in La Jetée.
Listen, there's no mistaking that you just took his premise and made your own amazing.
No, I didn't take his premise. I took his form.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the form.
sorry,
That's
yes.
what I'm talking about.
You
Form.
took his form. You took his. You completely ripped off his motherfucking
Homage, Jared. Homage.
Okay, you stole it.
It's a
And,
fine line
and
between
also-
homage and
That's
But
French
what
for
you did-
ripoff.
But what you did is phenomenal because you made your own story, and then you keep and your story keeps
I rule out Jim.
your story.
I'm
keeps
trying to figure
unfolding.
out what he's saying.
Yeah,
Your story.
There's the
Clip.
clip.
that's the clip. Hold on, I'm writing this down.
Carry on, Jared.
What's the clip? What's the clip?
You'll see it.
That's the end of the clip.
Yeah, right.
There's a minor cutting to do in here, but that's all taken care of at this point.
Did Jim flash his cock or something?
No, okay.
did.
Almost.
Now it has
Almost.
two endings. Okay, that's good.
He whipped out his slide rule.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, yeah, there's form. People imitate form all the time. It's like people will do a film like
Not like this, motherfucker.
But no, like
this
they'll do
is
a film- they'll do a
goddamn-
film noir
This
with
is
the-
this is
with
a
the
fucking
slats
thing
and
where
like the
no, this is where Johnny said, "I'm making this movie like this movie."
Right.
This is not pastiche.
Mhm.
This is not fucking. This is not even homage. This is direct facsimile, but with his own idea attached.
Right.
To it.
Right.
Now,
that
you-
was the
use
important
the
part.
form.
Rad.
That's
That
how
was
it. That's
the
why it was a
part.
big hit. That's the whole idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, the reason it was so
well,
successful.
he chose the right thing. He chose the right thing. If you saw this with something else, you guys might be like poo-pooing it.
No, this is not a
No,
Vanilla
no, no,
Ice
no.
situation
But
here.
it
buddy.
was a
This is
little
like a
too
really
long.
original story.
Yes.
I
Yes,
don't
Jim.
know.
It's a little too long.
It is.
But if you guys let me-
There is in Act Two. It's a little okay. It's a tiny bit too long in
Yeah.
Act Two, but no, it's fine because it's short.
I was reminded of LBJ slapping his cock onto the table.
No, I was like impressed
Really?
that
Of course
that
you
it-
were.
Well, that was
You were there
that's
to
what I
see
was
it.
gonna do, Jim. But you
No, rewatching Levy was interesting because it's like of course, you got some Paris backgrounds in there, right? You had people shoot that for you, but it was all filmed in Santa Rosa, and
Petaluma too.
Petaluma too. But damn,
I was gonna say.
it was really hard to tell. It was really it did a really fine job because you would Photoshop
Where is
in those.
this? You have no idea.
it's not just hard to tell. It's perfect. It's
Yeah,
somebody
it's
called
really-
somebody called me out because of the wrong kind of fire hydrants in one of the
Yes.
spots.
That was me.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, which is reasonable. That's an alley, by the way, Tad, about 2 blocks from my
Oh,
house.
I know where it is.
Next to
I've
a
been
French
there.
restaurant. You know where it is.
Is
I-
that Lagar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the alley
So-
next to Lagar.
So
Oh,
can
Lagar's a
I,
great
I
restaurant.
want to read something real quick.
Also, okay.
So
You're not going to cry.
I went on IMDb and I looked up Levita Shed,
Right.
Oh,
and there's
no.
a user review
Uh-oh.
Oh, read it.
Never read those, but go
you
ahead.
can't give any credence to user reviews.
By Bob the Moo.
Bob
March
the Moo.
20
Bob the Moo.
March 23rd, 2012. Not only an affectionate spoof of La Jetée, but also an engaging and comic story. La Jetée is probably known to most people for the same reason it is to me. It's a short film that was watched in the late 90s because you really enjoyed 12 Monkeys, and Terry Gilliam name dropped it as an inspiration for him making that film. I'd love to say that I knew the film inside and out, but to be honest, it's been a very long time since I've watched it, although I must do it again in light of all of this. This film, Life of a Dog, homages that film in a manner of the telling. It tells the story of a society through French narration, or tells the fall of a society through French narration and black and white still photographs. However, this film, the fall of society, is brought on by a drug that enables people to turn into dogs. The delivery is very dry and totally captures the pacing and feel of La Jetée.
Yes,
At the same time, it doesn't mock it. It does in an affectionate and familiar manner that is quite pleasing to see. Within this, though, the plot is absurd, that it entertains, even if only because the contrast between the manner of delivery, French, dry, serious, and the content, absurd nonsense. It also helps that it does have very deliberately funny bits. Generally, the artistic phrasing of the words and the tone made it funny for me on the basis of a contrast. John Harden is to be commended. This is a great short film that pleases on several levels. His knowledge of cinema that will please many, but for me, his ability to take that and affectionately mock it while playing tribute to it works best for me. Just a great short film.
Hey.
Nice.
I
Well,
would
that
have to
Bob the
agree.
Moo is he's on
Thanks,
point,
you guys.
man.
Johnny already knows all that.
Okay.
Now
Having
we've
said
spent more time on my short film than we have on Chris Marker's La Jetée, which seems wrong.
it's still
We should circle
Okay,
back.
Okay, one last thing though,
Cut
John.
out
You
the dick
did- it is
jokes.
still a film, even though it's got you're all like it's great and wonderful. It's still a film about a guy who wants to fuck a dog. You
It's
get,
a
like,
guy.
you
It's
can't
a
get around
it's a
that,
film
man.
about it's a film about a guy
I-
who wants other people to be allowed
I-
to fuck
To love
dogs.
dogs.
I
That's
think it's
ultimately that is
I
the
think
most
he's got
cynical
it.
thing I can
You
think
know
of.
I love you, Johnny. You know I love your movie. My whole biggest thing was just like you know, I was like, you're a rip-off artist, but then you made this amazing thing.
Wow.
Like I said, I like this movie even more now that I saw its inspiration. So kudos.
Thanks,
to you.
Chris.
It's
And thanks, you
beautiful.
guys. Thanks,
So
all
if
of
it
you.
was a face-off, I'd say I could again. I think you.
And I want to say the other thing about Johnny's film is like you think it's done and then it keeps going.
Yeah.
You think it's done and it keeps going.
You know, you're not the
Then
first
it
person
goes
to say that.
one
But
minute
every time
too
it keeps
far.
going, it gets better and it
Right.
gets better and it gets
I've been
better.
told that before, Jared, that it's like there's several places in the film where you feel like, okay, that could be the end, but you know, it's sort of
It's a compliment, my friend.
You ever
keeps
tell you about, you ever
extrapolating.
tell you about how
Also-
I discovered
Also,
this?
it's 15 minutes shorter than La Jetée.
That's true. I learned about this film. Me and John
But
were
it's
having
still a minute
dinner
too long.
at the Broken Drum in San Rafael. We were
Yeah.
talking. We were trying to get some stupid movie going that we shouldn't bother writing. Thank God we didn't. So we're trying to talk about it. And John says, "I wrote a little something at 3 pages. I'm going to use the bathroom. Read." And so he went to the bathroom and I read it. He came back. I'm like, "Well, I think we're done here. You need to make that movie." So that was it. It was like,
Yeah.
you know, the thing is like a good idea is a good idea. How it's done, it has to be respected.
Well, Scott, as you well know, I've spent way more money and worked a lot harder to make other films, but this one was the one that, you know, went to all the festivals. It's like I knew what I had when I handed you the piece of paper.
Well, it
Yeah.
has heart, John.
Well, no,
There you go.
It was one of those things. It's like I wrote it in an afternoon. It's like,
Mhm.
oh fuck, I got to make this.
yeah, well, there it is. That's how
Even
it
if
works.
it is about zoophilia.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Oh,
I don't know what-
and in the film, there's a thing about does this constitute bestiality?
Right.
And that's a reasonable question.
Oh,
The
you
argument
guys
is
not
never to be
answered-
settled, Jared. The
Oh,
argument is
you
never.
got-
to be
you
settled.
try to
It's one of
slip
those
out of your
things.
own handcuffs here,
Love it.
John. You know that, right?
But I
Well,
still
it's about
have to
bestiality.
ask you,
It is about
motherfucker.
bestiality. You can't say, "Oh, well, we're not talking about it," because you weren't. It's a straw man, dude. You're talking
When I
about
was
guys
looking
talking
when I
about
was
sex.
looking for someone to translate my English script into French, which, you know, I wrote the subtitles basically and did it backwards and had it translated into French and had a narration recorded. when I was looking for somebody to do that for me, one guy said he would do it. He says, I'm a native French speaker, send me your script. And then he emailed me back and he says, this does not fit my beliefs. And he wouldn't do it.
But you remember who else you asked, John? I was quite pleased that you asked me, but it was beyond my
I didn't know that.
French translation.
It was not
abilities.
quite, you weren't quite up to the task, huh?
And,
That would
and
have
I
been-
knew it.
Yeah.
That would have been so.
Yeah, Jim
interesting
doesn't
now.
know the French word for bestiality. So
Yeah, the zoo. Isn't the narrator actually Sardinian? Or Corsican? or
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Yeah, he
Oh,
said-
Corsican.
Corsican. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and someone else has other French speakers have identified him as such by
You hear
watching
the
that
accent,
film.
right?
Like
by
he's
the
not from
accent.
Paris.
Ah,
Like no, he's far away. He's from far from Paris.
too
But I
funny.
mean, basically, my film was made for an
Go.
English-speaking audience that was familiar with La Jetée, and so it's a slam dunk for them. But for French speakers, I've heard it also said that the dialogue's awfully naive.
Okay. Quick question, John. Now that I've seen the dub version of La Jetée, you gonna make a dub version of La Vie in English?
God.
You should.
I'm
Yeah,
going
people
to do a
can
German
focus on the
version.
graphics then.
I think I'd be more inclined to Photoshop Louis into it than we do the
Oh,
soundtrack.
tell me about this dog.
hold on. Photoshop Louis in as what character?
Sophie, of course.
A more
Cool.
attractive dog. I'll give you that.
Sophie's ugly as hell.
Sophie's
Come on.
ugly as hell. What's the deal with this? This is the freakiest looking dog I've ever seen.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
You mean
great?
Wishbone?
No,
But
that's
the ears
a
and
good
the
dog.
nose and
That's
that.
a
He's just like
good-looking
a
dog.
freak. He's a
He's all
Martian dog.
nose. He's
That's a
all
good-looking
nose.
dog.
Yeah.
So where's he
Muscle.
from? What's his name?
Oh, I should
Yeah,
know that.
actually, I want some behind the scenes on
So
this.
before we
I
move
know-
on, who saw?
I'll have to get that. I'll get that information to you, Scott, and you can
Thank
put
you,
it up on
thank
the
you,
screen.
thank you. Well,
Milo.
Milo.
Milo is the
Okay.
dog's
Okay.
name.
Good enough.
Yeah.
You sure it wasn't Milo?
Milo. Ah, it's Milo. Isn't that a kind of a drink? All right, we're done. Okay.
What was that?
So
Just
anyway,
want you guys to see what's going on
No
my
one,
floor
no one saw.
right now.
goodness gracious.
Right
What
now.
on earth? Oh,
Yeah,
that
about
kind of
zoophilia.
fits in.
that was pornographic.
That was Chris Marker having some
Oh,
on,
God.
okay, what
Oh,
on
dear
earth is
Jesus.
happening here?